Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. It's been a little bit since we updated our best deck recommendations. So today we're going to be recommending the best decks to hit, whether it be standard or wild. And of course, I'm clickbaiting as always. I have like 10 standard decks rather than 5 and 5 wild decks. The gifts and Harth Stonebrew do not appear to shaking the meta up a lot, but I will have one recommendation with some of those cards involved. But overall, it's the meta has developed a lot, and we've gone from Rogue and Druid being not so present to Rogue and Druid are back to being top tier decks. So we'll recommend them, and we are expecting a balance patch next week. So again, craft at your own risk and all that. And we're expecting a new expansion. Well, obviously, Whizbang Workshop and rotation and all that next month. So basically put together what you can from these decks for your climbs, but don't go too crazy on it. And a reminder, if you want to win some cards and stuff like that, we have 2 regular pre-orders, 2 mega bundles I'm giving away for Whizbang Workshop. And that video there, the one with that thumbnail, all you have to do is like and comment on that video, be subscribed to the channel, and for every 1,000 subs we get until all the cards are revealed, I'll add another mega bundle. And we are super close to 78,000 subscribers. So hit that sub button, make me go broke. So taking a look at the best decks, yes, Sludge Warlock is still the best deck out there. I am highlighting a more recent trend with the whole archetype of being a lot more greedy to be able to go more to the late game against Control Warrior, one of the natural counters. And you got Symphony of Sins in here now, and Sargeras. The rest of the core basically remains the same. You just want to curve your 1 into your 2 into either location or sludge on wheels, into your 4 mana 7/7 and obliterate your opponent. Forge of Wills is an incredibly strong card. Be able to copy up like Gloomstone Guardian or your waste removal, and it works really well with monstrous form. You buff something up, you copy those stats. Very, very powerful deck, the best in the game at the moment. But again, it's probably getting nerfed next week, so you know, enjoy it while you can, but I wouldn't go out of my way of crafting too many of these cards at the moment because we don't know what's going to get hit. So just be aware of that. Next, we have, this is my Harth deck, all right? I only have one deck with Stone Hearth. You can always, or Hearth Stonebrew, you can always throw me to whatever deck you want, just as a one-of. I don't think it hurts the deck too much. Like, you're just playing it, whatever one of these decks you can kind of throw it in, and that's what I did, right? This is kind of just the regular Renethal Control Warrior. Instead, I have Hearth Stonebrew in here. Instead, I had Yogg, and I have the new 2 Garrosh gifts. Basically, I got 2 additional brawls. I feel like I don't need the Yogg. And yeah, Hearth Stonebrew can give you that alternate win condition or cost you the game, right? It's probably not the optimal card to run, but Control Warrior feels like one of the best decks to get away with that because you have board clears, removal, other win conditions. You can kind of just cheese along with it. We've highlighted it already, and I do feel safe to recommend it. But if you're looking for just a more conventional Control Warrior, this was the list I was playing before the gifts and Hearth Stonebrew came out. I think it was from No Hands Gamer, and it was super good. We won 20 games in a row with it. It was pretty solid, where yeah, you got your Odin, you got your Excavates, you got Ignis, and the only thing I'm wondering is I don't see the numbers yet, whether like heavy plate's worth running over the gifts. I do think the gifts are probably ideal in this deck. It's just where do you slot it in? But again, I just thought I'd highlight this version. And again, you don't have to craft the gifts, they're all free. So if you want to put them in there, go for it. But yeah, Control Warrior, really good in the meta because it beats Warlock and it can beat Rogue. It's just the Druids that are really, really challenging. And yes, Ramp Druid is back already because, well, there's one combo with the deck that has been busted and didn't really change, and that's Shattered Reflections and Eonar, right? You just do that. You don't get it in hand anymore, a copy, but you get 2 Eonars. You can just get all your mana back, draw your deck. It's still completely broken. And basically the deck is just like an OTK deck where you can get a bunch of beetles going, where you can copy it with like Solar Eclipse Reflections, and the deck's really busted. You're wondering, well, why did this come back? Well, turns out Funnel Cake really broke it at mana cheating, right? This is now in the list to give you additional mana to like get you to kind of abuse those turns more. And Pendant of Earth is still really, really good. It did get killed. I guess healing for 20 is also good. It's not as good as 20 armor, but it's still really solid. And you're still doing the Naga Giant stuff, which Naga Giant is rotating. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that this deck already is trending to be as like the only decks this is really bad against is Warlock. So if you're facing a lot of that, you probably don't want to run against it. And like, I think aggro Paladin and aggro Demon Hunter, the Naga DH. Other than that, you're beating like almost everything. So yeah, this is back in the meta and it's quite terrifying to see. And I wonder if they're going to have like emergency nerfs again. Like, are we really going to go through this again? Shattered Reflections, ENR, we'll see. But yeah, Ramp Druid back in the fold. A Dragon Druid's just a solid deck. It's like tier 3, tier 2. Nothing new going on with it. Still runs Cactus Construct after the nerfs. It really hasn't changed much at all. Splish Splash Whelp, you ramp with that. Try and get your golems buffed up, get a huge board, do it again, and then you can try and kill your opponent off as well with some burst with your Alexstrasza's, your Astalors. But overall, pretty standard Dragon Druid deck that hasn't changed a lot over the last little bit. Rainbow DK, really solid deck, still trending really well. A lot of these tools, I think like Malignant Horror will be leaving and maybe some other cards, but what a cool deck. It's cool to see Necrotic Climactic Explosion or whatever it's called, see some relevant meta play. Feel like it could compete with most decks. It just, again, the ramp druids are coming in, it's just abysmal against that, and it just depends on how much you're seeing that. It's a more high rank thing, I think, but yeah, you're looking to play Rainbow DK, it is doing very well. And you know, you got some pretty good turns in here with like crop rotation, either clearing the board with like Sickly Grime Walker, or you know, drawing you a bunch of cards with your Acolyte of Death, right? This deck has a lot of like flexibility, really good board-based fighting deck, and it's nice to see, you know, it seeing play, you know. And it also, of course, has the giant scam of like Corpse Bride into the Stitch Giants, which can be quite spectacular. Plague DK has fallen off as the Deathlight deck of choice. It's still good, it's still a solid deck, but overall, compared to Rainbow DK, it does not seem to be performing nearly as well. But of course, you know, shuffling those infinite plagues with hell yeah, excavating a ton is a lot of fun, and overall it's still doing well. It's just not the top tier Death Knight deck. Rogue has been back. You know, they got 2 nerfs to what the charge minion as well as their death rattle combo. Well, it has changed a little bit from what it used to be. You have Velorock in here still because it's still an absolutely broken card. Still works really well with Shadow Step and all of that, but it has now transitioned where you Scourge Illusionist, you don't have the 1-drop to have it die, and just instead of just having Drilly as a target, you have 2 patches now where you also have the Thunderbringer. You can hit Thunderbringer, which can cheat out a Neptulon, Krakatoa, and do some pretty gross stuff. This deck is trending very strongly, one of the most popular decks at High Legend already. You could consider throwing Harth into this deck, I think. I know some people have tried that out if you want to have some fun with Hearthstone Brew. But yeah, it turns out neither Rogue or Druid were murdered in the last patch, despite several nerfs. This deck is trending really well, and if you enjoy this playstyle of getting a bunch of random crap or scamming with a giant, you know, Neptulon and all of that stuff, well, this deck might just be the one for you. Naga Demon Hunter, not super popular deck, always really competitive, always top tier. I don't care. This card, I still believe Blind Eye Sharpshooter should go to 4 mana. I will say that until it happens, which I firmly believe it's gonna be happening. I just, it's such an irking card to me. But yeah, that's what this deck is. It's a round Naga Sharpshooter, or Blind Eye Sharpshooter, where you play a Naga, you play a spell, you play a Naga, you play a spell. You can literally OTK as early as like turn 5 or 6 with the ideal hand that beats up on like the Druids. It just somewhat struggles against Control Warrior, but my last game against it as a Control Warrior died on turn 6, and I was not too thrilled because like it just anyways, it's just a deck I do not like the playstyle of. But if you do, it is certainly still effective, and a lot of these cards are not rotating now, like Vicious Slither Spear and what is it, Wayward Sage, both going to be in the core set, so not losing as much as we thought, but still losing a good chunk of cards. And then lastly, we'll just recommend again Excavate paladin. It's still doing really well. Garden's Grace, still pretty busted card. There's a lot of nerf cards in here, right? Keeper Strength is in here. Boogie Down was nerf / buffed, but very effective aggro deck. Still, you know, just curve out, try and build something really big, buff it up with Garden's Grace, get that Excavate with Shroomscavate in there, and give it Wind Fury, and it's still a very solid deck. And looking at Wild, well, Wild is, it's pretty wild. It's pretty degenerate these days. I will always recommend Even Shaman right out the gate. Although I'm wondering, Even Shaman's getting a nerf by getting Spell Damage Totem, or will they build the deck a little bit differently with upcoming rotation? But yeah, it's the same as always. Wind Furies, Totems, but basically get Carving Chisel, get Anchor Totem, get a 0 mana buff. You probably won the game. If not, go again and you'll probably win the next one, right? Like, again, this is like the deck of bot choice for a reason. It is really straightforward to play, very powerful, and when you have Mana Cheat with like Think From Below and Guardian Totem and high rolls like Stone Right, it's pretty darn absurd. Mine Rogue, I'm gonna recommend it. I want this thing to die. I want people to realize how broken it is. This deck consistently can OTK on turns 5 and 6, mainly because the interaction with like Necrium Blade, Snowfall Graveyard, and then you have your Naval Mine comboed up with your Shade Stone Skulker. And Shade Stone Skulker will return the weapon back twice, which will break it, so your mines just do insane amount of damage. It's proc like 3 times and just can do a ridiculous amount of damage. This list is more tech for higher legend, I think, with like Ashen Elemental for ice block and all that, but overall this is a really gross, insane deck. It's just draw your combo and do it. And there's not much your opponent can do unless they have like ice block or armor gain or just kill you faster. It is really scary deck, and one that I do hope Blizzard takes a look at. Shadow Priest, really good aggro deck, goes super fast, kills super fast, like the Mine Rogues. You can kill them really fast. Draw this card, Void Touch to Tenant. It's broken. You play that on one, or have a really good patches. Don't draw patches, but play a pirate and get your pirates out. It can be pretty darn gross. And yeah, Shadow Priest, you win fast, you lose fast. The best aggro deck in Wild by a bit, like hyper aggro. Even Shaman's more of like aggro mid-range style. The Demon Seed has been seeing a lot of play lately. One of my most hated cards ever. You can tell I don't really love this wild meta. There's so many toxic, like, at least in my opinion, decks. But if you like the Demon Seed, this list, like this whole fatigue package has been going really well. You just get your quest complete, you know, deal damage with the Crystallizer, with your Cobalt Librarian, and then you just fatigue your opponent to death with the Chamber Visitus and like your Furnace Fuels or Hand of Gul'dans. You just kill them with your fatigue, right? That's what the quest reward does, and it seems to be rather effective. And then lastly, the deck I'm going to be highlighting in a gameplay video I hit legend with, Reno Quest Mage. This is another deck that I would love for Blizzard to take a look at, because it's really gross, really unfun to face, but it's really effective. You know, you complete your quest, you replay it over and over with Romath, but you can also play the control game with your Reno hero card, with your Reno Jackson, with your Zephyrus. This deck can win in multiple ways, but the whole open the way gate, I really do believe that should just say take an extra turn once per game, like Hearthstone Brew. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in today's gameplay video, so stay tuned for that. And those are my deck recommendations. Likely a balanced patch next week, so we'll probably have more recommendations still before the next expansion comes out. But you know, you guys need decks to play until all the new stuff happens. So got my recommendations. Good luck on the climb. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.